Morning. Good to see everyone. It's great to be back in the Capitol over the last few weeks for the district work period. We had an extensive amount of engagement with the American people, talking about the work that has been done on their behalf during our first 100 days or so in office, working with President Biden, Vice President Harris, as well as the Senate Democratic majority. Leadership matters, elections have consequences, and because the American people saw fit to ensure that Democrats had governing majorities in the House and the Senate, working alongside a Democratic president, things are getting done that are transformational for the American people. The American Rescue Plan, a $1.9 trillion intervention, provides extraordinary help because we are in the midst of an extraordinary, once-in-a-century pandemic. The American people widely support the American Rescue Plan because they know that it provides the relief necessary for us to make it through this storm and to emerge stronger as we build back better on the other side. It is the centerpiece of our accomplishments during the first 100 days, but it is not the only thing that House Democrats have done. As we continue to legislate aggressively on behalf of the American people as part of our effort to march toward a more perfect union. There's a lot happening in the country, a lot happening in the Congress, but we remain focused on trying to deliver in real and meaningful ways, and we look forward to working with President Biden on the American Jobs Plan to invest in our crumbling bridges, roads, tunnels, airports, mass transit system, as well as create and preserve affordable housing, modernize our public schools, and ensure that there's broadband access throughout America, including in inner city America, rural America, small town America, and Appalachia, which are at risk of being left behind in the 21st century innovation economy. It's now my great honor to yield to the Vice Chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Pete Aguilar.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to start by extending our condolences from the House Democratic Caucus to the family of Officer Billy Evans, who gave his life defending this institution, our temple of democracy. As a parent, I thought about those images yesterday of his kids consoling their mother, his widow, and it was deeply moved by it. We've all witnessed tragedy over the past weekend in Minnesota as well, where Dante Wright, an unarmed black man, was wrongfully killed by a police officer. The fact is, we need police reform. The House passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This is life-saving legislation that the Senate should take up immediately. Monday marked the 100th day of the 117th Congress, as the chairman mentioned, and I'm proud of the progress that we have made so far. In our first 100 days, we passed the Equality Act to ensure full equality under the law for our LGBT community. We removed the ratification deadline for the Equal Rights Amendment to extend that same equality to all American women. We passed the Dream and Promise Act, giving young immigrants who call our country home, a chance to make their lives here. And we took meaningful and life-saving action to prevent gun violence and further tragedies. We also passed the American Rescue Plan, the most important and most ambitious investment in the American people in nearly a century. I'm so proud of what this caucus has achieved. The chairman and I were on a call, and members were detailing the conversations that they were having with constituents back home. We're pleased to tout the story of the American Rescue Plan and what it means to our communities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions?
Jeffries, I believe it's today that Congresswoman-elect Julia Letlow will be sworn into the House, and that will cut your caucus's margin down to only 2 votes for defections in terms of not getting Republican support. I wonder if you can talk through the challenges of that and what you say to members who either want to break away from big priorities or who are issuing red line demands, whether it's SALT or anything else in the infrastructure bill.
Well, there haven't been any red line demands that have been issued as far as I can tell. I certainly have been part of the advocacy around dealing with some of the adverse consequences of the 2017 GOP tax scam, because it's outrageous that you would pass a bill where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1%, jam up our future by plunging the country further into debt, $1.9 trillion without justification, and aim a heat-sinking weapon at blue states as it relates to the SALT tax cap. So there are a lot of things that we need to unravel based on what was done in the previous 4 years, because it was disastrous for the American people. So there will be a lot of advocacy in that regard. But we remain incredibly unified behind what we've done and what we will do to build back better for the people. The American Rescue Plan is transformational. Help is not simply on the way, help is here. That is a unifying thing for Democrats, and hopefully it'll continue to unify large parts of the country as we explain what we have done today. The $9,000 per person FEMA burial benefit becomes operational, or has certainly this week, and our understanding that at least 1 million Americans have reached out to inquire about how to access this benefit. We know that the child tax credit, which has been enhanced, that will be rolled out in July, and that will be transformational. That will cut child poverty in America in half. Over 5 million children will be lifted out of poverty because of what we've done in the American Rescue Plan. So all of these items are really unifying and will continue to be lifted up and discussed and bring us together. There's no better vote counter, I would argue, perhaps in modern congressional history, perhaps even the history of the Republic, than Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And so I'm confident that we're going to be able to govern with operational unity and continue to get things done. Pete, you want to add anything? Okay.
But is the caucus united in wanting to repeal the SALT provision?
The caucus is united in getting to a result as it relates to passing the American Jobs Plan. It's still an outline and a framework, and as the Speaker indicated on the call today, and I believe as she's publicly indicated, right now the committee chairs are engaged in ongoing discussions with the Republican counterparts on the respective committees to see where bipartisan common ground can be found, if possible, and to begin the process of marking up different aspects of what the American Jobs Plan could look like. But we're at the very early stages of the legislative process. Some of us have expressed our position as it relates to the draconian SALT tax cap. By the way, that was the position of the House Democratic Caucus, because we passed a repeal of the tax cap in the last Congress. So this is not a controversial thing that has been interjected. We're incredibly unified. The other side is a mess right now. Their party's run by Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I feel very comfortable in the position that we're in.
While we're on the topic of Congressman Gaetz, do you think he should lose his seat on the Judiciary Committee?
I think it's an issue for the Republicans to work out. The rules require that someone who is indicted stand down and be removed from their committees until the judicial process works itself out. He hasn't been indicted yet. So let's see what happens.
How concerned are you about Congresswoman Tlaib's tweet about no policing, no incarceration, hurting Democrats in 2022?
Well, we're focused right now on getting the work done that is in front of us. And as Vice Chair Aguilar mentioned, the most important thing that we can do with respect to transforming policing in America is to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act over the finish line. We've passed it in the House. There are ongoing discussions with the Senate being led by Representative Karen Bass, who's done a tremendous job in trying to bring people together. Those discussions are bipartisan and bicameral. I've participated in some. I think the urgency of passing transformational police reform legislation has only increased in the last few days, the last few weeks, with the events that have unfolded, including in Minnesota, as it relates to Dante Wright, including in Virginia, as it relates to the targeting and pepper spraying of an active duty Army second lieutenant who was in uniform, as well as in the evidence that has been presented as it relates to the trial of the murderer of George Floyd. So I think the focus remains on passing police reform legislation that is transformational so we can shift policing from a warrior mentality that exists in far too many places to a guardian mentality. Because when you have a warrior mentality, you tend to view certain communities or communities of color or low-income communities or immigrant communities as enemy combatants. And if you view them as enemy combatants, then you see the types of tragedies that we've seen unfold before our very eyes. If you view them through a different lens, a guardian mentality, which is what the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is all about, then you look to partner with communities of color to lift up public safety for everyone. So that's where our focus is and will continue to be. Pete?
Congressman, just to follow up Ms. Gates' question, do you feel like Congressman Gates should resign?
No, I always take the position that every American, no matter their position in life, is certainly entitled to the protections of due process relative to our laws as it relates to the investigation that is clearly unfolding and what may ultimately lead to an indictment. But that remains to be seen. I think the bigger problem has been highlighted by former Speaker John Boehner. The Republican Party is totally out of control. It has been radicalized by a twice impeached former president who perpetrated a big lie that the election was stolen from him, as well as numerous other conspiracy theories connected to the deep state. They are out of touch with reality in large measure. We continue to be the party of big ideas, of jobs, of the American Rescue Plan. They are the party of Dr. Seuss, conspiracy theories, QAnon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Matt Gaetz. That seems to me to be a problem, but perhaps it's for the Republicans to work out.
We're now 3 months after the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, and you still don't even have an agreement on the composition of a 9/11 style commission to investigate it. Speaker Pelosi said yesterday that she might have to abandon that idea and just do a select congressional committee, which you guys have not wanted to do. Can you just give us an update on how much time you can give Republicans to agree to some sort of 9/11 style commission? And if not, would you agree to the select committee just based, consisting of members of Congress?
Well, let's see where we land on that. And I'll have a few things to say, but I want to yield to our vice chair, who also is a distinguished member of the House Administration Committee.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What we're focused on is getting to the truth. That's what we want out of a commission and a discussion about January 6th. Tomorrow, the House Administration Committee will have a hearing. We'll talk to the Inspector General, and we've received reports, and so we will formulate questions that get to some of these issues. But we're focused on specifics that will help. We're focused on how we move forward, what we need to do from a training perspective to help the Capitol Police. These are folks who help us each and every day and protect us. We need to make sure that they have the proper training and that the proper command and control in order to do their jobs. And so that's what the House Administration Committee is focused on. This is going to be a series of discussions and reports that have been mentioned and written about publicly. So we're focused on, and the caucus is focused on, getting to the truth. And so we feel that the commission structure is the best. But we do have options, as the speaker mentioned. We do have continued options to try to get to the truth of what happened, what the right timeline was, who knew what when, and we look forward to digging in and playing our role, providing oversight.
Quick follow to that, if I may, because Pelosi also announced that President Biden will be coming to the Capitol on the 28th of this month. What are you being told about the heightened security surrounding that?
Well, whenever the president visits in a formal setting, the next level is the national security designation that trip is given. And so Secret Service will take the lead on that event. So it has a heightened level of importance and oversight. And so we feel comfortable. I feel comfortable with the planning that will go into that event as a result of the president visiting the campus.
Yeah, the Capitol is an attractive target for those who want to do harm and make a statement, or perhaps for those individuals who suffer from mental illness or emotional disturbance. It's clear, based on the events of the last few months, both the January 6th insurrection as well as the events that tragically led to the death of Billy Evans, and we certainly stand with and support and lift up his family and salute the sacrifice that he made, the ultimate sacrifice. But these are issues that we hope to continue to be able to work through from a security perspective and do it in a bipartisan way for the good of the American people.
Are you in favor of removing troops from Afghanistan?
Well, I'm interested in hearing the president's proposal, which he will articulate at some point later on this afternoon with his speech. I do think that 20 years in, we can't continue to do the same thing and expect that we're going to get different results. It can't be an endless war. And for the first 10 years, the focus, appropriately and successfully, was on crushing al-Qaeda, and that was done. Over the last 10 years, a lot of time and energy and resources have been spent in trying to train up the Afghan military and the Afghan police forces, and I believe that our military leadership and our troops have been able to train over 500,000 members of the Afghan military and police forces, and hopefully they now have a professional police force, a professional military that can provide for the safety and well-being of their people, particularly women and children, and also prevent Afghanistan from becoming a safe haven for terrorists once again. I've been to Afghanistan. It's a rough part of the world. And this comes from someone who comes from a rough part of Brooklyn. It's a rough part of the world. But we can't be the policeman for the world either. It's not our job. And so I'm interested in hearing what President Biden has to say. I support the direction that he is moving in. Thank you, everyone.